violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, in school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. But I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe. Let's get into the video.
Well, first of all, Jim, we did have the chance to talk to the family's attorney tonight. He says this case is most likely going to the grand jury because someone is not cooperating with the investigation. Meanwhile, one man came back to the scene tonight trying to keep her memory alive.
This could have been any one of our children.
One man on a mission for justice. Joe Wilson tells NBC 10 he promised FANTA Bility's family he would never give up the fight. On the 1-month anniversary of the 8-year-old's killing, he released balloons in her honor.
That's a baby. That's a baby. And it still hurts me. Whew.
So you see this protester, he has good intentions, it appears. And if you guys don't know, FANTA Bility is the 8-year-old girl who was shot at a high school football game because a couple super gremlins got in an argument, pulled straps on each other, and they got the bussing. And then the police officers pulled up, and then they got the bussing, and one of the officers' bullets hit FANTA Bility. It's a sad situation. It is. But them trying to prosecute the officers is crazy to me.
What will get you so emotional?
The pain that baby must have went through with a bullet hitting her in her neck. No.
This afternoon, the Delaware County DA announced he's handing the case over to a grand jury. 1 month ago, shots were fired outside of an Academy Park High School football game. Investigators say an argument between guys led to a shooting there. As officers responded...
An argument between guys? You mean super gremlins? These were two teenage super gremlins who brought straps to the football game. I mean, come on.
Shooting there. As officers responded, several fans were hit by gunfire, including little FANTA. The DA now says, quote, "Our initial ballistics analysis has concluded with near certainty that 4 of the 5 gunshot victims, including FANTA Bility, were tragically struck by shots fired by the Sharon Hill police officers. We await final forensic reports."
So it looks like the officers didn't know where the gunshots were coming from and started shooting in the crowd, or maybe they saw those guys, but they were moving, you know. And the difference between getting hit by a bullet and not getting hit by a bullet is very small. So you could be moving and barely get hit, whether they had good aim or not. They probably did exercise poor judgment in this situation, just dumping shots into the crowd. But you got to understand, everything's happening so fast. You don't know where the shots are coming from. Then once you locate it, it's like, oh, boom. All these decisions are made in a split second. Just like those two super gremlins who got in the argument and then started dumping at each other was made in a split second. The officers responding, their actions were made in a split second as well.
They need to know what the investigation turns up concerning why the police chose to fire at that particular car, because it had 2 young women in it and no bad guys.
Bruce Castor now represents several of the victims, including the estate of FANTA. Castor says he just learned recently that police fired at a car with innocent people. He believes that barrage of bullets is what ultimately killed the little girl.
I think justice would be served if the DA were able to catch who set the chain of events in motion and charge them with some degree of homicide, because but for that activity, the police would not have, in this case, erroneously fired at the car and killed FANTA accidentally.
And I agree, you know, everybody gets a share of accountability, but the majority of the onus goes to the super gremlins. Okay, that's just that. Okay, you can't convince me otherwise. Because those shots had to be close for those officers, but boom, this car. You know what I mean?
We, of course, reached out to some family members tonight. They simply told us no comment. Those 3 officers who fired those shots are now on administrative leave. For now, we're live in Sharon Hill. Aaron Baskerville, NBC 10 News.
An investigation will continue to follow. Of course, Aaron, thank you.
The Delaware County District Attorney's Office says a grand jury has been seated in connection with the death of an 8-year-old girl who was shot by police. It comes after the second teenager charged in the case, 18-year-old Hussein Strand, was taken into custody. Strand and 16-year-old Angelo Ford are charged with murder in the death of FANTA BILITY.
So Hussein Strand, and what did they say the other guy's name was?
Death of FANTA BILITY. Angelo Ford and 16-year-old Angelo Ford.
Angelo Ford. Can't make it up, bro. These dudes, I'm pretty sure it was over nothing. And that's what led to this thing, man. It's crazy.
Are charged with murder in the death of FANTA BILITY. Authorities say they ignited the tragedy by firing gunshots outside of a football stadium at Academy Park High School back in August, prompting the police to respond.
I'm Donovan. Welcome to CBS 3 Eyewitness News at noon, now streaming live on CBSN Philly.
And I'm Janelle Burrell. We'll have much more on this breaking news at noon, but first, some new developments and the shooting death of 8-year-old FANTA BILITY. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo is in media with us this afternoon with some new information. Matt.
Yeah, we now know one of the teen suspects in connection to that case, who was charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault, and other charges, has pleaded guilty to some of those charges, but not to first-degree murder. I'll take a look. There were protesters outside of the Delaware County Courthouse this morning. They were calling for justice in the shooting death of 8-year-old FANTA BILITY. Authorities say she was hit by police gunfire back in August and died.
So you got to understand that because these guys were committing the crime, these super gremlins were committing a crime, and it prompted the police to respond, that burden of whatever happens after that goes to them, because you're committing a crime and you're, in theory, enacting all of these further developments into the future that lead to this 8-year-old girl, FANTA BILITY, being shot by the police.
The district attorney says 19-year-old Hussein Strand got into an argument with another person and exchanged gunfire when Sharon Hill police fired their guns towards a crowd. Now, Strand faces a slew of charges, including first-degree murder. Today, the Delaware County District Attorney's Office says he pleaded guilty to some of the charges, but not first-degree murder. His father spoke to us after the guilty plea.
So this is this man's daddy. I mean, when's the last time you think he was actually active in his son's life? For his son to be out here doing this, when is the last time he was really active in his son's life? Come on. And why aren't you holding your kid accountable for pulling a strap out on another black teen and opening fire on him? And he better not be the instigator in this.
I don't think my son is guilty of first-degree murder because he didn't intend on doing anything, you know. And it's obvious that the police bullets was responsible for all the shooting that took place.
Well, they didn't say that. All the shootings that hit the girls, yeah, but y'all still was shooting. Your son still was shooting.
And we're expecting to learn more about this case this afternoon from the Delaware County District Attorney's Office. We'll bring you those updates starting on Eyewitness News at 4. For now, reporting live outside the Delaware County Courthouse, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Matt.
Family of a little girl killed by police gunfire in Delaware County has filed a federal lawsuit now. The family of 8-year-old FANTA BILITY named Sharon Borough, the police chief, and officers involved in that suit. They're seeking damages now for FANTA's death and the trauma that caused the family. The 8-year-old was shot by Sharon Hill police officers responding to reports of shots fired following an Academy Park High School football game back in August. The officers have since been put on administrative leave as the shooting investigation is still underway.
The Delaware County Black Caucus is not just praising the Delaware County District Attorney's decision to call a grand jury in this case, but in a very impassioned plea is urging people to keep their opinions out of it and let that grand jury get the work done.
If the grand jury is going to operate in secrecy and privacy to do their work, that means everyone should keep their nose, hands, opinion, and pressure out of the DA's office and away from the grand jury.
It's a step in the right direction, says State Senator.
You know what? And I don't have any problem with that statement. This is a serious matter. A lot of people are going to get swept up under this. Obviously, the two teens, they should be charged with something. I did see something that said that a lot of those charges were dropped and they're just charging the police officers, but we are going to see, okay? We're going to see.
Senator Anthony Williams on the move to call for a grand jury investigation into who fired shots and why after a high school football game killing 8-year-old FANTA BILITY and injuring others.
We want to make clear, asking for a grand jury is very significant to those who don't know the law.
Williams says the call for a grand jury gives hope to the family and the community. Criminal charges can come of it. He's also pushing for the immediate firing of the officers there that night who fired the shots.
No matter the outcome of the grand jury, this was a gross and negligent act, an extremely poor judgment used. The consequences of this type of behavior should not wait for the dispensing of justice, but like in any other professional consideration, the person is terminated.
The Delaware County DA says it is within your...
You know, and I'm not mad at that. If you're getting spooked at gunshots, I get it. It's a serious thing, and you're jumping at gunshots, but and you're once you start firing and you're jumping, that's when it's like, okay, bro, you need to at least see the target. So this one is a tough one, but it's like nobody is talking about the two super gremlins who got this whole thing started.
There's certainty that the bullets fired came from the officers' guns and happened when officers responded to shots fired. 5 people were shot. 4, the district attorney says, were hit by bullets from police, including FANTA, who died. Her family stood behind speakers at today's news conference, not taking questions or talking about the case. But those speaking for them say they have not had an apology from police and say if it came now, it would be too little, too late. Williams says he speaks for the entire Black Caucus when he says changes need to come, including increased police training in de-escalation, among other police changes countywide. Senator Williams says this isn't the only case, but it is the most recent that sheds the light on the fact that there are no national standards when it comes to police training, something he and others who were here today are advocating for. In Sharon Hill, Deanna Durante.
Nationalizing the police is not going to solve the problem that they got in Philly. But, okay.
NBC 10 News.
And we're on display. And a call to action were on display at a gathering for a young girl killed by police. 8-year-old FANTA BILITY did not survive when several Sharon Hill police officers fired their weapons right outside of a football game. Those officers have not been charged, but 2 teenagers have. Bility's family says they want justice. Action News reporter Katie Castro live for us now outside of a...
And you know what? I think they got it right the first time. The teenagers should be charged, man. They should be the ones who are held ultimately accountable for getting this thing started off. 4 of the shots came from the officers. 1 came from the teens, but it doesn't matter. They were responding to what these guys were doing. Now, what was it negligent? I wouldn't be mad if they got some negligent charges, but it's crazy, man. because I think ultimately the teens ended up getting their charges dropped, but I'll have to check into that.
Academy Park High School in Sharon Hill, where that shooting took place. Katie.
And Shari, any possible charges against those police officers is in the hands of a grand jury. Today, some community members say they want more information released about those police officers. What do we want? Justice! Community members gathered outside the media courthouse demanding justice for 8-year-old FANTA Bility, who was fatally shot outside an Academy Park High School football game this past August.
There is always hope when people mobilize, when we come together to speak out against injustice.
Authorities have announced charges against 2 teenagers in her death. 16-year-old Angelo A.J. Ford of Sharon Hill is facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder.
There you go. And we had his daddy talking about, my son shouldn't be charged with bro. Why is your son out here shooting like he a cowboy with some random kid?
18-year-old Haseen Strand of Collingdale is also charged. Investigators allege Ford and Strand got into an argument at the game, leading to their exchange of multiple gunshots. Officials say responsive gunfire by the officers wounded 3 bystanders and killed Bility, who was standing in the ramp inside the football field area off Coates Street. Authorities have said that 3 Sharon Hill officers were positioned opposite the exit, and as the gunfire broke out, a car turned onto the street directly in front of them. The gunfire and the movement of the...
Oh, now that's messed up. If the car turned in front of them, they're responding to the shooting. That's crazy. I'm just gonna go ahead and call it, man. I don't think they should be charged with anything, bro. The teens are the ones who are responsible for kicking this whole thing off. So the police are just responding. Now, should they get better training? Yeah, they might need to take a training on I don't even know, because it's like they're responding to shots. What do you expect? What do you expect? Especially if they start shooting and then these dudes start shooting back at them.
Sharon Hill officers were positioned opposite the exit, and as the gunfire broke out, a car turned onto the street directly in front of them. The gunfire and the movement of the vehicle precipitated responsive gunfire from the officers. Many community members today say they want to see the officers held accountable. They are also asking for their names to be released, just as the teens' names have been.
Moving forward.
Well, they're not the same as the teens. This is crazy. And Philadelphia got all this murder going on. And they ain't protesting none of that.
We need to be sure this never happens to another family.
The Delaware County District Attorney's Office says an investigative grand jury is determining whether the police officers' use of deadly force was justified.
And make your voices heard.
Now, these activists plan to continue to make their voices heard on Tuesday at Strand's scheduled arraignment outside the courthouse. Ford's preliminary hearing that was scheduled for today has been postponed. And again, the DA's office cannot comment at this point since this is all under investigation with the grand jury. I'm live here in Sharon Hill. Katie Catro, Channel 6 Action News. Brian and Shari.
Yeah, an emotionally charged case. Katie, thank you.
Here at 4 o'clock with breaking news out of Delaware County. 3 police officers have now been charged in connection with the shooting death of 8-year-old FANTA Bility following a football game back in August. It is Tuesday afternoon. I'm Sarah Bloomquist.
And I'm Brian Taft. The big story on Action News today is those charges announced by the Delaware County DA. The 3 Sharon Hill officers each now face 12 criminal counts of manslaughter and reckless endangerment.
Action News reporter Dan Cuellar is live in media with details on the charges.
12? Damn. Damn.
Sharon Hill officers each now face 12 criminal counts of manslaughter and reckless endangerment.
Action News reporter Dan Cuellar is live in media with details on the charges, which come after a vocal public outcry. Dan.
That's right, Sarah and Brian. DA Jack Stolzheimer announced that a grand jury investigation found clear and convincing evidence that the bullets fired that were killed 8-year-old FANTA Bility and wounded 3 others were recklessly fired by 3 Sharon Hill officers.
We believe that the charges are justified by the law and the evidence.
Delaware County DA Jack Stolzheimer announced a grand jury had been investigating the August 27th shooting incident that led to the death of FANTA Bility and wounding of 3 others. He says the grand jury concluded it was bullets fired from police that were responsible.
These officers made a split-second decision to return fire. We trust them to get that decision right, and they got it horribly wrong.
Charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, he said it, but 12 counts for each, man? I don't know. I don't know. And this isn't just about, oh, these white cops always be getting off. Because as you can see, it's a black cop in there too. I just don't think that's fair.
And 12 counts of reckless endangerment are Sharon Hill officers Devin Smith, Sean Dolan, and Brian Devaney. Stolzheimer says the officers were responding to gunshots being fired by 2 teenagers who were arguing after a football game that was just ending at Academy Park High School.
Unfortunately, the officers in their response picked the wrong target, shot in the wrong direction and into a crowd of people, hitting FANTA Bility and 3 other individuals.
At the same time, the DA's office has withdrawn murder charges against the 2 teenagers whose gunfire precipitated the incident, although they're still facing serious charges. The attorney representing the family of FANTA Bility offered this reaction to today's developments.
All right, so they dropped the murder charges. Nah, I think they should get hit with the manslaughter too. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, all types of stuff. They're still facing serious charges. I think they can reduce some of those charges off of the officers. Honestly, this is my humble opinion. It just doesn't seem fair, man, when these super gremlins are going crazy like they are. And this is in Delaware County, but Philadelphia is on fire right now. Tensions are high on both sides, man.
They are very, very pleased that the DA's office didn't let it drop, didn't just decide to go with charging the people that initiated the action, but that they went the extra distance to decide that the police acted with such recklessness that it constituted criminal behavior.
Now, the 3 officers have been arraigned and released on bail. Meanwhile, the Sharon Hill City Council has voted, they will meet on January 20th to vote to fire the 3 officers based on the grand jury's investigation. We're live here at the Delaware County Courthouse and Media. I'm Dan Cuellar, Channel 6, Action News.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, and I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.